we'll do 10 minutes or so. It's usually what ends up happening is that I get about 10 minutes or 11 minutes, and then it stops recording, and then I have to hit record again. But yeah, so let me make sure it's focused. I didn't even do that yet.
Make sure we're in the...
Yeah, you stay where you are, and I'll make sure that we're... Oh, that's perfect. Alright, so we're good now. But it was out of focus. Something about out of focus shots just ruin the night. Let's get comfortable. Don't even look at it. I don't even want to look at you. But yeah, no, it's I wanted to come out and interview you. This is Joe Larkin, everyone. Joe.
Hello, everyone.
And I've known him since I started doing stand-up, just because of the room that you used to produce a show in. And it's the way, I think the best way for me to describe you is that you're everyone's favorite dirty grandpa. Like when I first met you, yeah, it was like I wish that I had the older people in my family. Not that you're old, but you're old.
I'm old. Come on.
Have we done jokes?
Okay, no,
have we done those jokes?
We've done the old thing, yeah.
But I wish that I had older people in my family that were as funny as you. And it's because a lot of them, I think, just forgot that they could be funny.
Well, you lose track of your youth, you know?
Yes,
and
definitely.
I'm hanging around with a lot of young kids now.
That's true. You probably do a lot more than anybody else you know, friend-wise.
Absolutely.
Of like hanging out with people in their 20s and 30s. And that's
I got a whole bit about that. You know, that, hey, you know, if you want to make it in comedy, you got to hang out after the shows. You know.
That's a big deal.
And talk,
hanging out
and talk, you know, about video games and comic books. You know, superheroes and pussy, you know?
Have you? Yeah.
I haven't had any of those.
Chasing pussy. I don't do that anymore. When did you start? Because that's the other thing, is that as much as I love you, I know almost nothing about your history.
I started like 5 years ago.
Okay.
At the Shrine.
Oh, Rock On, when it was in Naperville still.
It was in Naperville, yeah, downtown Naperville. Mm-hmm. And Dave Sinker was a friend of mine before he had the Comedy Shrine.
Oh, Rock On.
So we've known each other for 20 years or so. And he kept saying, you know, I'm doing this open mic, come on out, you know, and do it. And I said, you know.
I got nothing to say up there.
You're funny, man. We get together and we just have good times, you know. I said, well, I'll come out and watch. So I went out and watched a couple times. I thought, I could do this, yeah.
It's a huge thing.
So I did. You know, it's like a shot of heroin. You know, once you get it, it's if you have a good experience.
What is going on? What is going on here? I'm sorry, Joe. This is my mother calling. Everyone.
Hi, Mom.
No, we're not picking up the phone. She calls random times, everyone. While I'm doing interviews with people that I'm interviewing and love. But anyway, I think a lot of people don't understand that like hanging out is kind of a part of it.
Oh yeah.
A lot of especially with open mic, like people get there and then they decide that they're done for the night and they want to leave.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm just like, I always want to like see what everybody's doing anyway, just to kind of like see how it's received.
I have my ups and downs, you know. Sometimes I just do my thing and leave. But I always tell the host, you know, I got something else. And sometimes you do, you know. Sometimes you have 2 or 3 open mics that you want to do in one night. And I've done that.
If you got to do that, then you got to let them know.
Right.
Like,
and thank them, you know, for letting you come on, you know, and all that stuff. And but you know, the networking thing, it really helps, you know, because I've gotten some paid gigs out of just
having friends,
being around,
knowing
and having
people.
friends. Yeah.
Joe, I'm sorry, this is happening.
Turn
this
that
is so
thing
off. I turned it off. I'm just gonna turn it all the way off now to make sure this doesn't happen anymore. Because Jesus.
Because I think my daughter might be going to be trying to call me.
Let me pause it now and start it over again.
Power off.
Right? Yeah, more. So unprofessional I am. But let me, because I wrote out questions.
Okay.
And so you said that you've been doing stand-up for 5 years. When was the Comedy Shrine the first place that you went up at?
Yes. Yeah.
So the first person that ever gave you stage time
It was Dave Sinker. Yeah.
was Dave. We'll be interviewing him as well.
Oh, yeah. Good.
Yeah. Because he has.
I'm sure you'll get a lot of people saying, that Dave gave him a shot first.
Yeah, it's a, and we were talking about this earlier. It's like that part about being a producer of an open mic show is that, like you said, it's a thankless job. Like you guys are out here putting up a show,
Yeah.
giving people stage time, and it's a big deal. It's a big deal for someone to give you time in front of other people.
Yeah.
And some people take it seriously. And some people don't. Some people don't on purpose.
I don't like it when people, well, I didn't like it. I did this thing at Rubens in downtown Plainfield. And it was the first time anybody had done a mic out here, closer to the south suburbs. And it seemed like it was a little trek for people. But I had a lot of people there the first night. And it was great. I thought, wow, this is going to be great.
It's going to be an awesome
Second time was like a little less, after about 5 or 6 times, it would be hard to get the comics to come out even, So
that's another thing. Can we talk about reliability of a comic? There are guys who will show up always if they say they're going to show up. But then there's a lot of other, and I mean they're out there getting it. I understand.
Yeah.
But
I try to be as reliable as I can, as possible.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, I'll have to not show, but I always tell the person beforehand I'm not going to be there.
Yeah.
Even if they don't give a shit. I mean,
that's the thing, is like there are those people who run a show who just, you can tell, kind of don't give a shit.
Yep.
But then they give a shit 5 minutes before the show's about to start and no one's there. Then they're kind of sweating it out a little bit. Let's see here. How often do you make it out to the city? Because I know you go to the city.
well, there were 2 summers in a row. About my second year in, I was in the city every night.
Every night?
Every night.
Okay, let's just preface this. Joe lives in Joliet, Illinois. How long is that drive?
It's about an hour. Hour in, an hour back. So,
That's
burning
dedication.
up a lot of gas.
Yeah.
You get there and you feel like, gotta buy a drink, at least a drink.
Yep.
So, it cost me a lot of money to do this.
Yeah.
And,
That's another. I don't think the audience people really realize that either. That sometimes the people that are up, especially if they say they're from somewhere that sounds like it's far away, they had to get there. They had to pay their way to get there.
Yep.
It's hard to explain to people.
I try to hook up with somebody, if I'm going to do a far away thing, like up in Rockford. I've done things up there in Milwaukee. So I try to get somebody to ride along with me, even if they're not going up for.
Yeah, like a car buddy, like just a traveling buddy at least. It's important too. One thing I found is that getting yourself there, especially nerves-wise, when you first start out, is a big thing. But if you have someone to kind of be there with you, it helps.
It takes the edge off.
Yeah. You know that person. You're kind of like, oh well, they're gonna go up. I'm gonna go up. Oh, if they're gonna go up, I gotta go up. All right, they're calling my name. I gotta go up now. Like, it's a big. Oh yeah, birds. I love that. Hummingbirds.
That dog is like a bird hound. He just goes, anytime he sees a bird, he's.
I want it. I'm gonna kill you. Don't you come in my yard.
We just saw a dog run by.
Yeah. It's under the table. It's hanging out. His name's Finn. cool. Let me make sure that this thing is done recording that segment. Like I said, I have to do it like every 10 minutes. Yep, we're getting there. And then I don't have anything. Like, what? I filmed for like an hour and a half. Nothing happened. Alright, what would you... Let's say this. What would you say to someone who's never done stand-up before, but is really thinking about getting up on stage, and then they ask you, this is the question that always gets asked, how do I get into stand-up? Like, what should I do?
I would say be prepared, first of all. Make sure you get at least 5 minutes of serious material that you know, that you've memorized, and you can do it without thinking about it too much. And then just do it. And do it, and do it, and do it, and do it, and do it until you get really comfortable with that 5 minutes. And then just start adding to it.
Yeah. Like I was saying, if Nike didn't own it, I would call this documentary "Just Do It."
Yeah.
Because
you can't, and anybody you talk to, that's what they say. Just do it. You gotta do it, and you gotta keep doing it. If you want to make any headway, that's what you have to do.
You have to get out there, folks. You have to.
But after a while, for me, the whole open mic scene was kind of an education. You go through that whole process. But after a while, you start to develop a lot of bad habits doing open mics.
Because of it, yeah.
Yeah, because you're not really invested as much in an open mic as you are in like a showcase or getting a feature or something, So you're just kind of up there farting around, trying to...
digging.
Yeah,
I like it.
You're just farting around trying to work out new material. And it's not, and that kind of can get inside you and carry over to, the real stuff.
There's people that I've seen that go in, and I've gotten that way, like where I got comfortable one night, like I did really good the night before, so I'm just gonna do the same set and it's gonna be fine. People will laugh in the same spot. No, that's. I think the first time I ever bombed was the night after the first time I ever killed. So that says something, like right away about the process. Like, I can't. There's people though that when they get comfortable, I think they challenge themselves on purpose on stage.
Yeah.
Like I see Lewis doing that now. Like he's challenging himself on purpose, and I don't know that I could do that.
Well,
I prepare.
How long have you been doing this?
2 years.
2 years. Well,
I took a lot of time. Well, no, I'll say 2.5, almost 3 now. But I took. It's almost closer to 3. But I took almost 8 months to 9 months off to go to Second City.
Yeah.
And
that's a wise decision to go there.
It was networking wise. The people that I met will probably be my friends for a long time. It's an important thing.
So did you take improv?
No improv.
Yeah. Is all stand-up?
No stand-up.
No.
Just the writing program. The sketch writing program. But a lot of people go there and you see them when you first get there, and then they weed themselves out automatically. Like, I want to be on SNL day one. Day one when they get there. Yeah, right. That's a thing. And then
how many thousands of people have gone through Second City's curriculum and anything, stand-up, improv, writing, have ever made it really big?
It's a very small number.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people right out of high school think that that's like a gateway.
Yeah. But a lot of really famous comedians have come through Second City.
You get what you put in too.
Right.
It's almost the same way as like what we were saying about like preparing to have that 5 minutes. The only thing that it's doing is that it's making you prepare that 5 minutes every week. Every week you gotta have another 5 minutes sketch wise. Or Or there are stand-up classes there. The stand-up is totally different though.
Well, you know, once you've got your 5 minutes and you've done that enough so that you're comfortable with it, then you do another 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You know? And I've done that. I've gotten like, you know, I'd probably had an hour's worth of stuff that I could do. And then I've got so many freaking notes and stuff that I've tried and, you know,
Yeah,
about but not good, you know.
Stuff.
But, you know, I've heard a lot of people say this, don't ever throw anything away, man, because as you go back to it, you might find that it wasn't quite as bad as you thought it was, or you, after you have a little bit of experience, then you could shape it better.
There's tags in professionals have said like 5 years later I got a tag for that joke that I was doing in 1999 and now works.
Absolutely.
Let me pause it again.
And people will say things to you, you know.
Oh yeah.
After a show.
It's still going. Good boy. Good boy. All right, there we go. But there's a certain. Let me sit down and then ask the question so I can edit it properly. So there's a certain kind of etiquette, I think, at shows in general. Like, there's etiquette about like how to behave like while you're actually watching someone. Like, this happens all the time, like especially on social networks now, like where we're all talking about like how you should behave. Should you be on your phone? Should you not be on your phone? All that bullshit aside, when your friends come to a show, but you're also trying to network with all the comics in the room.
Mm-hmm.
How do you like behave with your friends? Like, it's almost like I preface every night. Whenever I see somebody that I know, I'll always go up to them before the show starts, talk to them about it, and then say, hey, I'm gonna talk to some people after.
Mm-hmm.
But like, there's this thing like where you can't give them all of your attention, but they're the ones who came out to see you.
Yeah.
Like
I try to pay attention to my friends,
mm-hmm.
you know, although I don't have many friends anymore. They're all dead. Yeah. I always say,
there's literally a graveyard behind the house, guys.
I always say I don't do
friends.
contests
anymore
because I can't bring people. You know? If I brought people, it'd stink up the place because they're all dead.
It's a big part of when you first start out the contest scene. And I've not done a contest. I kind of the first one I'll probably do is the Brower House thing, but I'm not going into it like a contest. I'm just going there because that's the place where I go now.
Yeah.
And that's where I get my time on Sundays. So that's where I'm going to go anyway.
So that contest that he's running,
he doesn't do it all the time.
I didn't do it because I thought if I got past the first round, I have to go to second and the third. That's a long freaking drive for me.
Yeah, I don't know what the rules are of engagement on it. There's been, and I'm gonna interview him eventually to talk about his first like Battle of the Comics thing. But like, he was telling me stories about how he put Ben Gay on his balls at some point and ate cinnamon, and then ended up puking all the cinnamon out on the stage into and it was because like the comics would say something and then the other comic, like they were doing insult comic things to each other. Like it was two comics on stage, and then like if they did well or they made him laugh, Chevy, he would do something to himself physically. Like it was almost like a Jackass meets I wonder, like, that scares them.
I admire people's creativity sometimes.
But then other times,
then
it's like
it just seems like it's overdone or it's over, you know. I don't want to talk about the guy because I don't even know him. I never met him.
No, it's not going to end up on there anyway.
Don't.
I won't. But for him in general, like, there's people that run a show where they know how to run a show,
mm-hmm.
and then there's people that really just want to give people time, but they kind of don't know how to do a show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or they just want to get up themselves. Like, that's another big part of like being an open mic comic.
Absolutely, yeah.
They'll start their own show at a local bar by their house, and then I get 8 minutes, you get 2.
here's another thing about running shows. If you run a show, you're much more likely to get booked by those people who come to your show, you know, because they know that you can give them time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, it's...
I gave you 8 minutes, you give me 8 minutes,
right.
and we'll talk.
One thing that really irritates me is when the host kind of takes over the show and does like 10 minutes in between each comment. That is like, you know, part of the etiquette thing.
Yeah.
That's a no-no. You know, you just want to keep the show going. You know, even if they say something that sparks something a little bit longer than just, you know, mentioning that. Don't do it.
yeah, exactly. That's a big part of it. I don't think a lot of people that just start out understand like what the light is, understand how much time. Like I would say like the biggest piece of advice I give to people when they first start doing it is ask how much time you're supposed to get.
Mm-hmm.
Ask. Don't be afraid to ask. Don't think that it's rude to ask, because if you're up there, kind of need to know how much time you're doing.
Right. And if you get, and for new people, you know, that rule of thumb about 5 minutes, get your 5 minutes down.
Yeah.
Yeah. If somebody gives you 10 minutes and you only got 5, do your 5 and get the hell off. You know, don't try to stretch it out.
There is a hatred within our group of people, like when stage time is being abused, like because we all notice it right away. Like if you're done and you've paused and your mind is blank now, just get off, just walk away. We'll keep it going.
Yeah,
just walk away. What would you say was your... Do you have, like, how do you organize your material? Let's go into that. Do you have a notebook? Do you write on stage at all?
I used to have I have notebook. I have notebooks full of stuff, but now I have it in my phone. You know, I've got just little one-word reminders. You know, so I've got a 5-minute set about what the government, you know, spying on you.
Yeah.
I have that. You know, and so I just put that in there, and then little points underneath it. You know, so that's a 5-minute chunk, and then I got another 5-minute chunk about my wife. I got a 5-minute chunk about my kid. I got a 5-minute chunk about being old. You know. So I guess that's the way I organize it. And
if you have it on your phone, it's a way.
And every once in a while I go back and just look through all the stuff that I've done, you know, and see how I used to do it, because it's always evolving. It always changes, and I think, wow, man, I wrote the longest damn setup to this joke, you know, that turns out to be like a, you know, 15 seconds when it was like 5 minutes. You know? Yeah,
I know. You get those like moments where, like, do you record yourself at all, like audio wise, or every time, or no?
No, not every time. I used to do it a lot, but now everybody's got a camera, so I was just over at Patrick Bagden.
I've not. No,
he
do not know
he used to do stand-up a lot, and he just kind of fell away from it. Well, he lives down the street from me, and I was over at his house the other day, and he goes, "Hey, I got a bunch of videos of you at Cigars and Stripes." I said, "You do?" He said, "Yeah, here, look at this." And hell,
you've been filming me?
And I didn't even know it, you know. And I know that other people have too. Well, like Ray Fisher, if you go to Dandy Jags, he always
films all
everybody,
the
and he'll give you a video for $5. Ricky March's thing at the Abbey, he'll give you a video.
Oh, Flabby at the Abbey.
Yeah. And you don't have to pay for it, but they kind of, you know.
You know what? If I didn't have to bring out my camera, because it's a little bit of a thing, to bring all that stuff out sometimes. And as long as the audio is good, that's the only problem I have, is that, like, I've had other sets, like, where somebody said they were filming me.
Yeah, right.
I can't hear anything. I got a waitress talking in the background. I'm hearing her order, like something's going on.
Well,
like,
Amelia used to do a good job at Comedy Under the Tap.
With that video was very good.
Yep.
I think that's half the reason why I have anything from when I first started, was that I had all of those sets from there, and then I started bringing out my own camera to get stuff too.
A couple of times at Comedy Under the Tap, people have seen me for the first time, like Paul Sigworth, you know who Paul is?
I've met Paul Sigworth.
And Mars Timms.
Mars, I love Mars.
Both of those guys. The first time they saw me, next day I saw this post. I've got a new favorite comic. It's Joe Larkin. You know, you got to see this guy. And Mars did the same thing to me. He let me open for Pimp Prov a couple of times.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. No, like I don't think I need to like stretch it to where anybody's not going to believe me, but a lot of people, we kind of look up to you. It's not a bullshit thing though. It's because of this. It's because of your age. Like for me especially. Like look, I started when I was 26. So there's people who started when they're 21, 23.
Do I wish that I had started like 20 years ago?
I wish I started when I was 18. I see these guys that are 18 and they go up and they have all this material, right? But at the same time, then eventually they top off a little bit and they don't have any life experience.
They have a little bit of maturity and a little bit of life experience in order to be a good comic. Although some people are old souls, like Bill Hicks, you know.
Yes.
He's like 15 years old doing this shit, you know.
Who is letting their kid do stand-up at 12? There's like people out there.
There's some kid in Chicago who's 12 years old.
Yes,
you see that guy?
I have seen him. He has a podcast as well, I think.
Really?
Yes.
But I think he's like he's got a stage dad, you know, who writes a lot of material for him and pushes him into this stuff. So.
You gotta want it. You gotta be hungry.
Yeah.
You gotta want
and
that.
And he may want it. I don't know.
Yeah, true, very true.
Seems like he does real well.
All right, so Joe, I'm gonna pause it one more time. Think of the last question I want to ask you. Let me see here. Last question.
I don't know.
We've already done some advice stuff, so I don't want to ask for any more advice.
Yeah.
Let me see.
Something I think about a lot is, okay, what if I had started 20 years ago? At my age, people don't take it seriously, you know?
That's true.
People don't take me seriously because, you know, I'm older than they are. They think I'm just doing it and I am, really. I mean, and come on. What's going to happen to me, you know?
But at the same time, I think that there's like a need for people of any age. It doesn't matter.
There's a need for diversity.
That's how I want to go. Like if I go up at a show, I want to see a guy who's maybe 20, 30 years older than me. I want to see a guy who has a completely different life experience. Maybe he's a little bit richer than I was. Maybe somebody's a little bit more broke than I am. That's always fun. And then I want to see a woman.
Yeah.
I always want to see a woman on stage. Like I think that's kind of important. Like I get bummed out if I go to a show and there's no ladies up at all. Right. Kind of.
And you know, ethnic comedy. You know,
dude.
God, you know, there's a whole other scene that a lot of people don't know about. You know?
Well, there's this grouping that happens like where it's suburbs, north side, south side. And sometimes never in between they meet.
Well,
and sometimes they do.
A lot of the serious south side guys will go anywhere to do it. And that's cool. But, you know, if you go to Jokes and Notes, see the same people there a lot. And that's the only place you'll see them. You know?
Yeah.
Like, what the hell? You know, what do they do?
It's the only place I go.
Yeah.
It's right. I get off of work. I come here.
Yeah.
I go home. Let's end on this. Who are your influences? When you were growing, I want to know like your first favorites. Not like we all have like those.
Everybody's watched all those Laurel and Hardy and Evan Costello and all that stuff. I grew up on that stuff, but I think the first person that ever really made me laugh out loud and just roll on the floor was Jerry Lewis. The Martin and Lewis stuff, and and then after that, I kind of, I just liked comedy, but I wasn't obsessed with it. And then I heard about Lenny Bruce, in the early 60s, late 50s, early 60s. And it was a whole different thing. It's like this underground, beatnik kind of pre-hippie stuff, and then of course George Carlin.
Oh, Carlin.
I started doing comedy 4 days after Carlin died. Yes.
I remember that day.
Yeah.
So I can remember that week. I was at work, same job that I have now. And I had a Carlin a day calendar at the time, and he died. Yeah. And I kept that little Carlin a day calendar from that day. And I was just like, ugh.
And the first time I went up on stage and I came up, somebody said, "Hey, you look like George Carlin."
It's like, he just died, guys.
I'm channeling George Carlin. I wish.
I would say that there is something about that, though. Like seeing a man that's above his 50s or 60s just going on stage and talking about anything, whether it's what he's complaining about or what his life is like.
It's easier to do that once you're established, but as you're coming up, you have to have material. You have to have like a setup, punchline, bomb, down. Keep hitting them until you made it, and then you can start.
Talk about whatever you want.
Right, you can do whatever you want.
When they're there and they paid to see you, you can talk about whatever you want.
Yep.
You just have to figure out whether or not you want to give them your time.
The funniest person on the planet to me right now is Dave Chappelle. I love Dave Chappelle.
That guy, just the fact, like I've heard rumors of him like just going into a park with an amp and a microphone. And just camping out, telling jokes at a park for like 3 hours. Like, what are you doing? But no, hands down, he knows. What I like about him is that he doesn't need to be famous. He almost doesn't like it.
Yeah, I know.
Which is fine.
Yeah. And he walked away from a great show. I don't need this shit.
Yeah, everybody's like, he walked away from 20 million, but he had 5.
Yeah,
he had 5. He's fine.
Him and I think right now Bill Burr. Love Bill Burr.
Bill Burr gets angry. I like it. I like it.
There's Louis.
Let's talk about Louis C.K. Do you watch the show? Do you watch
Louis
his show?
The Louis show, yeah.
Okay. There's like a certain thing about him, like where he has so much that he has to write in a year, and then he writes his own set, and then he writes stuff for that show, and everyone's calling him prolific, and I kind of agree, because I laugh at pretty much everything he does, stage-wise. So if you're getting that much out of me, then you're doing it all within a year. Like you're writing all this down within a year. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, and you don't know. You never know if these people have writers working for them.
That's true. I don't know. I don't know either.
And if they do, they usually keep it.
Don't you tell nobody. I'll cut you.
But you're funny. Funny is funny.
You either are or you're not.
Yeah. I just watched this thing about Rodney Dangerfield. A bio on Rodney Dangerfield. Now there's another guy.
Yeah.
It's just cracks me up every time I see him.
What about local guys? What would you? I'll let you do 3. I'll let you say 3 of your favorite local comics, and I think we'll cut it there.
Man, that's hard.
Don't worry about not mentioning someone. having them be worried about
I like
it.
Marty DeRosa. I like the comedians you should know. I like all of those guys.
All the comedians you should know are very
Yep.
good. I like Drew.
I like
Drew's
Drew a lot.
Yeah.
Drew is very smart. Everything that comes out of his mouth is really smart, and it makes you think. Marty is so good with the crowd, and
His crowd work
so
makes
at
me
ease on
jealous.
stage and stuff. Boy. I like Brian Hicks,
Yes, there you go.
Ken Yar. I'm sure I'll think of other people. Lewis, I love Lewis. Lewis Ryan, I love him.
Lewis, there's moments like where I look at him and I go, I hate you so much because
know.
you're so good.
He's like a fucking genius.
And
But it's like,
he doesn't even realize sometimes.
No,
I think.
no.
I don't think he
and I've
wants to
said
know.
to him a couple of times, I said, you're like a little kid that never grew up. I used to do that thing, like, I went to the supermarket, my mom, it's like, oh, pudding! Who says that when you're 30 years old,
Oh, nobody. He's my age, and that's
right.
what cracks me up because our life situations are completely different. So I like seeing it from that angle.
Yeah.
All right, I think we're good,
Yeah.
guys. Joe Larkin.
I forgot to mention Joe DeGan, too. He's a very funny guy.
I try, but I'm getting there. I just got to put a lot more work and time in. That's my thing.
Anyway,
thank you.
it was fun. Pleasure.
Thank you,
Be well.
sir. Yeah, we'll stop recording now. Yeah, no, what'll end up happening is it'll probably be